Feywild, a realm of heightened magic, where beauty and horror coexist. Hags in the Feywild are reflections of its capricious nature, embodying both its whimsy and its cruelty. Unlike material plane hags, Fey hags are intrinsically tied to the essence of the Feywild, often shaping their surroundings to reflect their twisted personalities. Today, we will peel back the curtain of these mysterious Fey creatures, discovering both the chaotic beauty of the Fey hags and the grim practicality of their material plane cousins. Haglairs are extensions of their personalities and are shaped by their magic. One of the most famous Feywild domains, known as Prismeer, was divided among the hags of the Hourglass Coven. The Hourglass Coven is a group of 3 hags, each one bound to an aspect of time. One reflects the past, another reflects the present, and the third reflects the future. These hags are utter wickedness distilled into corporeal forms, driven by a lust for secrets that can be used to manipulate their prey. These specific hags are daughters of Baba Yaga, and they control the Prismeer realm. Prismeer was a single Feywild domain until the Hourglass Coven broke it into 3 splinter realms. Hither a vast swamp, thither an ancient forest, and yon a stormy mountainous landscape. Prismeer, like other Feywild domains, is shaped by the emotions of the creatures that inhabit it. A powerful creature, such as a hag, can reshape a large portion of the domain to reflect their emotional state. The portion of Prismeer known as Hither is an enormous swamp containing huge tangles of mangrove roots, expanses of thick marsh, and mysterious sites half sunk in the muck. The fog reveals a shrouded swamp spreading out below in all directions, with a smell of rotting plants ever present. Also rising from the swamp is the music of nature, a discordant symphony of croaking frogs and singing birds. At its heart, the hag Bavlorna Blightstraw makes her lair here. Bavlorna has a toad-like face with a mouth that magically widens and elongates, enabling her to swallow creatures whole. Her bulging eyes move independently, constantly scanning her surroundings. Stained and mouldering patchwork garments hide much of the leathery mummified flesh that stretches over her compact frame and extraordinary, long, spindly limbs. Younger than her 2 coven members, Bavlorna is the hag of the present, the here and now, the moment to moment. Those desperate individuals who seek her out do so to find a remedy for a nagging problem or anxiety. Though she despises unannounced visitors, a tragic tale of woe and misery puts her in a bargaining mood. As she is a Fey being, she cannot age from both magical means and time. As with any creature who lives on the Feywild, sly oddities exist. Bavlorna's oddity is that she is allergic to the sight of creatures running counterclockwise in circles. She labels this as running widdershins. This causes this hag to lapse into a fit of sneezing. Thither is a sprawling Fey woodland with a decaying core. With each passing day, Granny Nightshade's presence eats away at the forest's trees and taints its denizens. The mists of Thither reveal a primeval forest. Fragrant breezes waft between enormous trees, sending motes of pollen dancing in the air. Patches of sunlight kiss the forest floor, and the sweet melody of birdsong echoes all around. Skabatha is the oldest member of the Hourglass Coven. Better known as Granny Nightshade, she offers her assistance to those who are haunted by regret. Her deals often result in twists. For example, a petitioner who asks to be reunited with a lost love might be transformed into one of their loved one's cherished items, such as a favorite fresco. Skabatha assumes the guise of an old toy maker. Part toy herself, she has a wind-up key between her hunched shoulders that rotates quickly when she's in a good mood and slows down as her mood sours. When she is furious, the key comes to a dead stop. Skabatha appears as a short, thin, gnarled woman, swathed in a tattered dress with petticoats. Cracked white face paint plasters her features, with crimson splotches on her cheeks and thick mascara coating her sparse eyelashes. Underneath her makeup, her flesh is textured like rotten bark and infested with wood lice and fungus. Skabatha loves to magically shrink herself to a tiny size, maintaining her illusion of a tiny wind-up toy on the countertops of her abode. Yon is a realm of rocky peaks, thunderclouds, and howling winds. The narrow ledges and footpaths that curl around the mountains are arduous. Skittish goats leap and bound across the mountain slopes with ease. The sky is dark and full of roiling thunderclouds. Lightning strikes nearby mountaintops, illuminating distant pinnacles of rock that show foreboding spires carved into the rocky surface. Enderlin Moongrave, the dame of unhappy endings, presides over this realm, and her penchant for theatrics has transformed the land around her. Storm clouds roil, shadows take on a life of their own, and the air is filled with a sense of impending dread. Carved into the realm's tallest pinnacle is Motherhorn, Enderlin's theatre. This theatre is where hapless souls come seeking hope, only to leave after stark revelations of decline and despair. Enderlin's emaciated form is hidden under the layers of her elaborate costume. Part dress, part mechanical theatre, the outfit makes her look frighteningly tall. Without this costume, she is a hunched and withered bag of bones. She shrouds her wrinkled features behind a gauzy theatre curtain veil. The outermost layers of her dress open to reveal a marionette theatre, and she manipulates her puppets using an arrangement of artificial hands that nestle in the folds of fabric. Enderlin, also known by the names Creeping Lyn and Bitter End, is the youngest member of the Hourglass Coven. People come to her to learn about their futures, which she spells out through grotesque, theatrical pageants. As payment, she snatches away a portion of each client's free will, preventing them from taking certain courses of action in their lives. Her petitioners often learn of a dreadful fate that awaits them, but find themselves unable to prevent it due to the cursed terms of their deal. This obsession with tragedy and hopelessness extends to her own life. She has foreseen her own demise during a solar eclipse. In the depths of her castle, a lightning-powered device called the Orrery of Tragedies clicks and turns day and night, giving Enderlin glimpses of her terrible fate. One of the most infamous artifacts that is present with a hag coven is the cauldron. Hags have full control over the implications of these wondrous items. The effects from the cauldron are up to the hag herself. However, some of the typical magical effects are transformations of water into hearty hot stews for any weary adventurer. Dipping water and wine into the cauldron has been said within the Feywild to bring telepathic control within the minds of creatures, scrying through their eyes. This, more often than not, requires some form of biological or material connection to that creature to function correctly. Unicorn horns are rare, and hags crave these rare magical items. It has been said from sages that once acquired dipping one of these horns into a cauldron, and with the correct incantations can freeze all creatures within a certain radius of the cauldron. For the Feywild Hags, this gives credence to the ability in which they claim to control time and space. From the Feywild's chaotic beauty to the grim practicality of the material plane. Material plane hags have more defined roles within the mortal world, often acting as antagonists in folklore and legends. Hags within the material world are crones who represent corruption like their Feywild cousins. They delight in seeing the innocent and the good brought low. Desperate mortals come to them looking for advice, only to have their requests fulfilled in ways that bring great suffering to themselves and their loved ones. Hags are vile and disgusting creatures. They perceive ugliness as beauty. They revel in having a hideous appearance and sometimes go out of their way to improve upon it. They pick at sores, wear skins and bones as decoration, and rub refuse and dirt in their hair and clothing. Hags delight in corrupting others. They do so not by imposing their will or being outwardly violent, but by making sinister bargains with those who seek their aid. They desire to orchestrate the downfall of others, and this makes many hags make their homes near humanoid settlements, which gives them a ready supply of creatures to tantalize and torment. All hags possess magical powers, and some have an affinity for spellcasting. They can alter their forms or curse their foes, and their arrogance inspires them to view their magic as a challenge to the magic of the gods, whom they blaspheme at every opportunity. Green hags are wretched and hateful. They dwell in dying forests, lonely swamps, and misty moors, making their homes in caves. Green hags love to manipulate other creatures into doing their bidding, masking their intentions behind layers of deception. They lure victims to them by mimicking voices or drive unwanted visitors away by imitating the cries of fierce beasts. Their obsession with tragedy helps them revel in the failings of other creatures. They derive joy from bringing people low and seeing hope turn into despair, not just for individuals, but also for whole nations. These hags often cover themselves with a magical illusion that makes her look like a regular humanoid, in order to move discreetly through a town or persuade unwary travelers to their abode. Green hags prefer to attack from hiding, usually after distracting foes. They often use their dark vision to their advantage by attacking foes during moonless nights. Night hags are subversive. They want to see the virtuous turn to villainy, love turn to obsession, kindness turn to hate, devotion to disregard, and generosity to selfishness. Night hags were once creatures of the Feywild, but their foulness saw them exiled to Hades long ago, where they degenerated into fiends. The night hags have long since spread across the lower planes. While a humanoid sleeps, a night hag can straddle the person ethereally and intrude upon its dreams. The hag fills her victim's head with doubts and fears in the hope of tricking it into performing evil acts in the waking world. The hag continues her nightly visitations until the victim finally expires in its sleep. If the hag has driven her victim to commit evil deeds, she traps its corrupted soul in her soul bag for transport to Hades. The night hag can also use her vast magical ability to induce a way of sleep that dazes the target. This daze also allows the night hag to step into the mind of the humanoid, to destroy their will with powerful nightmares. The soul bag of a night hag catches the soul of the humanoid. This bag is a black sack made of stitched flesh. You would not find a night hag without one of these. It is as precious to her as a hoard is to a dragon. Sea hags live in dismal and polluted underwater lairs, surrounded by merrow and other aquatic monsters. Beauty drives a sea hag to fits of anger. When confronted with something beautiful, the hag might simply attack it or deface it. If something beautiful gives hope, a sea hag wants it to cause despair. If it inspires courage, the sea hag wants it to cause fear. Sea hags are by far the ugliest of all hags, with slimy scales covering their pallid skin. A sea hag's hair resembles seaweed and covers her emaciated body, and her glassy eyes seem as lifeless as a doll's. Her flesh is sickly and covered with warts and oozing sores. Her long, filthy hair resembles rotting seaweed. Although a sea hag can hide her true form under a veil of illusion, the hag is cursed to forever appear ugly. Her illusory form appears haggard at best. A sea hag is found in the water of seas or overgrown lakes. These hags are not subtle and prefer a direct approach to combat. They usually remain in hiding until they can affect as many foes with terror with their horrific appearance. Anis hags look like ancient female humans but impossibly tall. They have deep blue skin and filthy black hair. This dreaded hag may be the most horrible of hags. They commonly use magical disguises to take the form of an exceptionally tall human, a fair giant, or an ogre. These hags live in mountains or hills. The terrain is easy for them to navigate because they are the most physically capable hags. Even with their hunched posture, an Anis hag is as tall as an ogre. Although Anis hags can easily tear a grown man apart, they love hunting smaller creatures, preferring their flesh above all others. They leave tokens of their cruelty at the edges of forests and other areas they claim. Nothing is sweeter than turning a vibrant community into a place paralyzed with terror, where folk never venture out at night. Strangers are met with suspicion and anger, and parents warn their children to be good, or the Annies will get you. In this way, they provoke fear and paranoia in nearby villages and settlements. They delight in tormenting the weak and fearful, and seeing others feel fear. With all of these hag variations, the thought of sharing their home with other creatures, even other hags, is disgusting. Each hag has nothing but dislike or disdain for anyone other than herself, and she loves being alone. This is with the exception of minions or other creatures under her sway. When a group of hags, on the other hand, have a common goal, or they seek greater power to combat a formidable threat, they suppress their basic nature and come together. This results in a coven being formed. Being part of this coven gives each individual hag more magic and spellcasting potential. To each hag, these benefits offset the inconvenience and bickering that goes with living and working with other hags. If a member of a coven is killed, and the surviving members intend to keep the group from dissolving, they immediately attempt to recruit a replacement. Adventurers who slay only one member of a coven might deal a blow to it in the short term, but later on, the surrounding region is racked with plagues, curses, and other disasters as the applicants attempt to outdo one another. Many stories tell of hags using strange, enchanted creatures and objects for travel, and most of these stories are accurate. Instead of the usual horse or pony, a hag might ride astride a giant pig, a goat, or a cow. It's not unknown for a hag to use a sentient creature as a mount, perhaps as the result of a bargain that creature struck with her. A hag that wants to humiliate a mortal hero might require that hero to serve as her mount for a year as part of fulfilling her bargain. Some hags prefer non-living conveyances from time to time, and their imagination in this regard knows no bounds. A hag might happily animate and spruce up any sort of object she can tailor for the purpose, such as a clay statue, a huge woven basket, a cauldron, a butter churn, a mortar and pestle, or a tombstone. No matter what form it takes, a hag's home is a manifestation of her basic nature. It is ugly, eerie, or unnerving in some way, often incorporating some aspect of decay, such as a dead tree, a ruined tower, or a menacing cave entrance that resembles a skull. Whether naturally or by manufactured means, the lair is well defended from intrusion. It might be reachable only by a steep mountain path, or it might be surrounded by a fence the hag builds out of posts capped with magically warded skulls. Often, a lair reflects the outlook of the hag. A murderous hag's home might be crafted to look like a coffin or a mausoleum, and that of a gluttonous one might look like a tavern or a gingerbread house. Many hags settle in places where the barriers between the mortal world and the Feywild are thin, making it easy for them to interact and bargain with creatures of both realms. Other popular choices are places where ambient energy augments certain kinds of magic, a site related to death such as a burial ground, and within a ring of fallen standing stones that still resonate with ancient power. A hag's home is cluttered with mundane items caged creatures, oddities, objects that hint of a magical purpose, preserved specimens, scraps of lore, and curiosities that have a supernatural origin but aren't inherently magical. A hag's foul nature slowly suffuses the environment around her lair, twisting it to evil. Some of these environment effects could be gravel stone paths that feel like walking on caltrops, and illusory duplicates of the hag that appear in random places, which can be interacted with as if she were present and standing in that duplicate's space. Night hag lairs may incorporate shadows that seem abnormally gaunt and sometimes move on their own as though alive. Intelligent creatures may see hallucinations of dead friends, family members, and even themselves littering the hag's realm. Although they are solitary by nature, hags sometimes feel the need for companionship. Usually one scratches this itch by acquiring servants she can insult and slap around as she wishes. Such a creature might be charmed into compliance, or under a spell that stops its heart if it disobeys, or too afraid of non-magical punishment for failure to do what she says. Most hags have some kind of slave or minion creature living with or near them as a defense against attackers, even if it's just a common animal. Hags particularly delight in using mortals bound to their service as minions. Ordinary folk are useful as minions because they can serve the hag as her eyes and ears in a nearby settlement, either operating secretly or actively, trying to persuade other townsfolk to pay her a visit. Like the land near a hag's lair, over time her minions are altered by her presence, becoming twisted versions of their former selves, but still recognizable as what they once were. Much of a hag's treasure is strewn among all the clutter in her lair, making it difficult for intruders to quickly identify all the items that have use or value. But the hag knows what and where everything is. Every hag is infallible when it comes to keeping track of her treasures and other possessions. Her organization and labeling, if such a system exists, is designed to foil thieves and serve as a final, vexing puzzle for anyone who tries to make use of an item without her consent. A hag's treasure, like a gift from a fey being, should be doubted and even feared rather than simply being scooped up and carted away. Treasure seekers are likely to fare better if they consider a hag's booty to be trapped, exercising caution rather than giving in to greed or curiosity, manipulating a container or other items without knowing what's inside. One of the most famous magical gems created by hags is the Hag Eye, a magical gem created by a hag or a coven. It appears to be nothing more than a semi-precious stone, but a gem of seeing or other such effects reveal it as a disembodied eye. Often, a hag eye is worn as a ring, brooch, or other adornment. Any of the three hags who created the hag eye can see through it whenever they wish, so long as it is on the same plane of existence as the hag. Hags embody fear, betrayal, manipulation, and the corruption of innocence. Whether in the Feywild or the material plane, their methods differ, but their wickedness is undeniable. In the Feywild, hags are unpredictable forces. Their cruelty is often masked by the whimsical, dreamlike quality of the Feywild. They lure creatures in with beauty and enchantment, only to twist it into horror. Material plane hags are deeply entrenched in mortal fears. They reflect the dangers of haunting swamps, shadowy forests, or treacherous coasts. They feed on despair, fear, and greed of creatures they encounter. What ties all hags together, regardless of their origin, is their penchant for manipulation and deals. They rarely kill outright instead. They weave elaborate schemes to break their victims mentally and emotionally. These bargains often include offering mortals exactly what they want, but at a price they never expect. Long-term unforeseen consequences, creating cascading suffering the hags relish. Even when their victims believe they have won, the hag has likely already planned their downfall. All hags tap into timeless folklore, embodying themes that humanoids have feared for an age. They embody the witch in the woods, the crone who offers aid only to demand something greater in return, and the spirit who haunts their dreams. Debates rage between scribes on which hags are more dangerous. Are Fey hags more dangerous because of their whimsical unpredictability? Or are the material plane hags more frightening due to their grounded, terrifying horror? Hags teach us the price of the easy way out, and that the price to success is often paved through the path in which we believed we could not accomplish. If you have any ideas on mysteries you want us to focus on, then leave a comment. Thanks for watching the video. If you would like to support us, we have both our memberships on YouTube or ad-free content on Patreon. The link for these is in the description below. Thanks to our newest member, DJ. Like and subscribe. See you all on the next video.